So this is my tarper arm. As you can see, the flange just snapped. This is the aluminum version, not the steel. I don't know if I want to try that next. I haven't heard good things. I think they make carbon fiber, and I know some people have been welding these. Looks like we lost the little bar. So that, I think there's a little bar that goes through the middle there that was welded in. I guess that weld didn't hold either. As you can see, the one on the driver's side also has a crack in the weld, so it's probably not going to last much longer. As you can see here, I've removed the tarp from the tarp arm assembly and freed it from the hoist. Now I can hopefully lower the hoist far enough to lift up the back of the truck and get me more room so that I can get these springs slotted into this slot right here without the tension that's on with this bar. I have now fully extended my hoist. You can see it's lifted my wheels a little bit up off the ground. Probably not enough. I guess we'll see. I've got 3 springs basically on. The problem is you can't slide the bottom tarper arm any further in this downward position, which allows you to get these on without much tension. So as this slides in further, I guess I'm going to have to lift this up, and then it's going to be interesting getting these tabs into that little slot in the bottom. More to come. Now, I've seen guys put these on with a bobcat bucket. They put the arm up in that direction over there and use the bucket to push the arm down to tension the springs, although I'm not sure how they got the springs on there to begin with. But this seems to be the way that it might work. If you take this bolt out, I might have to take both out and try that on the ground or something, but I think I might be able to do this here with this one bolt out. If I push this side down, yes, I do have gloves, I just took them off to work the phone, but if you push this down, I might be able to take enough tension off to get the rest of the springs on. It's going to be interesting doing that with, I don't know, a crowbar and some other various tools, but it may still be a 2-man operation, but I think this will get the job done, and I'll show you again in a moment. As you can see, I've got quite a bit of movement here. I got enough to put the next spring on, but notice there's not much room to slide it in right here. So you're going to have to maneuver this back over to get that spring in, slide the springs and the assembly this way to the left inside, and then do it again for the last one. And it went really easily using this giant set of channel locks that I've got here, and you can get those at Harbor Freight for probably 15 or 20 bucks. The last 2 springs slipped right in. You can see the post right there by the hole. I've got to maneuver this back on now, and I'm gonna have to lift the arm up and put it up here on this bar in order to do that, and then I'm gonna have to use my handy dandy channel locks and my big mallet to get that on, and then find a way to get this realigned so I can get that bolt back through there, slap a nut on, and I should be good to go. Just put my arms back together, throw my tarp back on, and away we go. Right back on with the mallet. Looks good. I think I will put on the washer. And the spring clip. And then, once I do, like I said a few minutes ago, it's going to be interesting trying to line these bolts up, this bolt, but I think I can get it done. I can get really close right there by pushing down on this flange and tilting the bar out from the truck. Once I get it fed through, I should be able to get the nut on it and tighten it up. I have a special set of spring clip pliers for this spring clip here. Regular old needle nose will do it. You just have to get this out of that little ridge there and then pull it out all the way around. Putting it back in is the same way. You just put it in here and feed it in with your needle nose and snap it into the little groove, and then it's nice and tight. Got my bolt through. Wasn't hard at all. It's a little crooked. There's enough thread on the outside that I shouldn't damage those too much trying to get it in there further, or I could probably just put the nut on and pull it through with that. I think that's what I'll do. If you need to hit this with your mallet to get it in or get it closer, I would recommend hitting it right here. Try not to hit it here. This bar, this weld did fail on my old one, and the flange was cracked right here. So I would recommend not hitting this and not hitting the flange anywhere if you can avoid it. Hit this bolt right here to get that sucker in. Good luck. Now this bolt towards the front of the truck, this nut and bolt, I did not take off. This one I took completely off to get enough room to get everything back together. And as you can see here, I had to get a little creative to hold this arm up in order to get my Allen key in there in order to get that tight again. You might be able to use something else for this, but this big ass pipe wrench seemed to do the job for me. Okay, so once you've got your lower tarper arm fitted, go ahead and slide in the upper arm. And as far as distance goes, I've laid out the old tarper arm to get a general idea of the length. And what I'll actually do then is take my tape measure and measure the other side just to make sure before I replace these two Allen bolts here to tighten it up. Then I will put my reflective tape on the new arms in the same placement as the old. Put my tarp back on, lower my hoist, raise my tarp, and get it back on the road. The length of my tarp arms is apparently 156 inches from this edge right here to that connector right there. If you can salvage this 90-degree end piece, you probably should. I've seen those break as well, at least on these aluminum. I haven't tried the steel ones. I've heard they're not much better. I do know a guy that has welded new flanges onto his aluminum arms. He's in a very windy area. If you don't have a lot of wind, your tarper shouldn't have a lot of problems unless there's operator error, which sadly to say we had some. Jeff Mateka did a video a while back on how to replace your tarp It's recommended to have a spare tarp on hand in case you ever need it. You will, from time to time, tear your tarp, and that will happen. You just have to repair it with some zip ties. I'm going to do that here in a moment. Just put some zip ties through the holes on one side and the holes on the other side and zip them nice and tight all the way across. And that'll keep your tarp from tearing further and make it last longer. I would recommend, when you're putting the tarp on, especially if you're doing it by yourself, get yourself a broom handle, stick it in the end here to hold it up so it doesn't fold over, which makes it difficult to slide on over the end. Remember when I told you to save that corner piece, that 90? Well, as you can see, this one doesn't line up perfectly. I can't get the bolt through. So my options are try that other one, and then if that doesn't work, I'll go ahead and drill this out a little bit. As you can see here, this old elbow lines up perfectly. So we're about to get this puppy back on the road. Finally, just check all of your nuts and bolts. Make sure that you didn't miss anything. Check your springs. Make sure those are all up over the rail like they should be. Inspect for cracks. Make sure you didn't put a cracked one on. You can see my stickers are all on there now, looking nice. These guys here are good and tight. These guys on the corner are nice and tight. And I even went ahead and made sure that everything was tight on the other side that I did not have to repair. I'm going to go ahead and raise this tarp after I fix this hole. I like to go about 3 or 4 holes in on each side of the tear and space them about 2 to 3 inches apart. Pull it together nice and snug, and make sure you start at the top of the tear and end all the way at the end of the tear here. And keep an eye on these. They will break from time to time. Just put a new one in if there's a broken one, and your tarp will last a lot longer. Last but not least, don't snug your tarps too tight. Okay, you can get them a little tighter than that and they will loosen up as you're driving. But you can just tighten those down again when you get back to the yard if they're up 6, 8 inches, maybe even a foot. But if you snug them too tight all the time, you'll blow the fuse. It's located down under here in the battery box. And they're not difficult to find. You can get one of those 50 amp fuses at the auto parts store. But sometimes they're out of them, which happened to me the other day. So you don't want to blow that fuse if you don't have to. I would keep a couple spares on hand. They're probably $5 a piece. And here's the protector that I made for my hoist alarm cable, which apparently was stepped on both of my trucks by a careless driver that's no longer with us. Well, no, he's still here in the world. He's just no longer working for me. But this is a standard water heater element wrench from Home Depot, probably about $10 a piece. I'm not sure what it's made of. I'm not sure what these nuts are made of, but I was not able to weld them. But I'm not a very good welder either. I did use some JB weld around inside here to secure that outside nut, and then you just pass the cable through, connect the cable to the sensor, and then thread the heater element wrench on. Now you got good solid protection. It's probably not going to break, probably, unless somebody really steps on it hard. Those sensors and cables aren't cheap either, so invest in one of those.